So with the Kawasaki, it basically got parked after what, 88 then, after you had your Savage?
Yeah, it probably 80 some, and then it was still running after you were born. And
Yep.
then for some reason I decided to rework it.
What year was that about? A couple years later? I think it was like 2004, 2005.
Well, I got to looking at the photograph of when we put it up in the back of the pickup truck,
Oh, yeah.
and I looked at, scrolled in on your license plate and it said 05.
Yep. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're in the garage and we're going to be working on my father's 1972 Kawasaki F7. It's a two-stroke motorcycle that he's owned since 1973, and I even took my license endorsement test on it. If you'd like to learn more about that motorcycle, I actually interviewed my father. A pretty lengthy interview, but it's fun to watch. Go back and watch that. And there's actually another previous episode of how I got this spare parts bike behind me to fix my father's motorcycle right there. So go back, check out that playlist, and that'll catch you up to now. So with that said, let's get started in today's episode. Oh, I've been busy. So right down in here, you can tell there's a whole lot of nothing. So I've been disassembling some parts on this, slowly getting ready to switch over the front end. Like I said, it's been dragging that out a little bit too long. But I have been doing some other stuff off camera. So I've got the tank here that you saw in the previous episode that we cleaned out all the rust. I've actually gone through and clear coated the tank, so it should lock in a lot of that patina and at least protect it from sitting around in my garage. Got the new Sportster petcock on there. That's cool that those fit. Got the fender back all together. Got the light end. Those are all clear coated. So the reason that I have the seat cover off is because I tore down the seats. So there's the seat foam. It's pretty incredible, actually. This one right here is the one off my father's 72, and it's like still squishy. And then this is the one off the parts bike I got. It looks like somebody did a reupholster job. And I wouldn't say it's as nice, actually. I think my father's seat foam was a lot nicer. I might end up reusing that. I don't know. I'll look into maybe doing a new foam or see if there's someone in town that can maybe give me a new core. But the reason I decided to do that is as I was trying to reuse our new seat from our parts bike, it is not really good, and it looks as though somebody had chopped off the front. He did a good job of making the underneath look like it was a brand new pan, but it is not. So I've decided to reuse my father's pan. So I did a little bit of rust removal with some Evaporust, and we got it torn down, and it honestly is in better condition than the parts bike seat pan. So I'm actually going to have this powder coated. Now, backtracking. I've also pulled out the battery box and CDI tray. This is the intake box, the top cover. And then this is actually the intake that you would typically have like a foam around that, but I had to peel it all off. My father had retrofitted some newer foam on there and it was super glued, so I had to rip that off. And then I found out that these side panels are like caulked on, so unfortunately I had to break those apart, and I'm going to try to see if I can get all of this powder coated. Hopefully they can do the mesh. If not, I'll just have to break the mesh off and redo it myself. We'll see. All of these parts I have chosen to send to powder coat just simply because I want to restore them, keep them around as long as possible. And these parts are kind of, I don't know if they're hard to find, but I really don't want to have to look for them. So in between all that time, I've also been comparing the teeth from this bike to that bike. And now I know that I have a 50 tooth in the rear and a 15 in the front. And the new bike has a 13 tooth in the front. So the gearing is going to be a little more around the town, probably more trail oriented. So I don't know. It is a brand new gear set. These are the original ones. You can kind of see they might have a little bit of life left on, but they are starting to bow. The back, I don't know. I mean, these are 50 years old, and my dad has, what is that, 15,000 miles on this? Is that right? So I'm just trying to save the parts I can. The frame, honestly, is in really good condition. I might sand a few spots down, maybe spray can it for now. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to do a full frame teardown and try to remember where everything's at. So I'm going to start with baby stuff first. So, fun fact, I did find that they still sell the carb rebuild kits for this bike. So, I think I'm going to order one of those. So, in today's episode, while I take these parts to powder coat, we're going to start switching over the suspension. After I get my dad's bike together, I do plan to go back and probably piece back together the parts bike with all of my old original parts and probably just relist it honestly. So if you're interested in anything on the parts bike that I'm going to be probably not using or listing, hit me up on my DMs over on Instagram. I'll try to check over there if anyone's interested. So with that said, let's start tearing these down. All right, so I've got the front forks pulled apart. I've actually already got the factory one that was on my father's bike slapped back onto the parts bike. So I'm not sure if you could tell or not in the video, but these run traditional ball bearings for the neck bearings basically. They're not a tapered bearing or anything like that. So I basically kept the parts bike that, just threw it back together with some grease. The new one though, I thought the guy I bought the bike from would have done tapered bearings since it's on a bike that comes with tapered bearings. I was wrong. He actually just filled it full of bearings, and then it looks like he stacked an extra gasket, threw it together with old school bearings, and they weren't exactly the right size because the diameter for this neck here is actually bigger than what is sold on the Yamaha front end on that bike. Now the stem on that bike is actually bigger. So what I've basically done is I've gone on All Balls Racing and I've measured the outside and the neck bearings, and I'm going to be ordering tapered bearings to put on this with new races and all. And we can slap this back together. So I think for this video, that's probably going to be it. While I'm waiting for parts, I think I'm going to throw the parts bike back together the best I can. And I got the front end back together. We've got the rear end of this bike back together. Hopefully I'll be getting the call for some powder coated parts here soon, and then I can reassemble the seat. And other than that, I still need to get the pulling the carb out. And also I might address the clutch, the disc clutch plates and all. So that could be a rabbit hole in itself. What else? Maybe some electrical bits and whatnot. And I did do some rust removal. So I showed this earlier where it was filled full of rust. Now it's pretty cleaned out. I might submerge it again and then coat it with some sort of sealant. But anyways, that is the end for today's video. This has actually gone on for a couple of days. If you haven't noticed, I changed outfits a couple of times. But if you have any advice, any tips, anything you think I might have missed or anything I should pay more attention to, let me know in the comments below. So yeah, with that said, if you watched this far, thank you. And until next time, take it easy.